welcome to Bad Music Taste and Other Ways to Ruin Your Life. My name is Dominic.
And my name is Sam. Dominic is this week's record.
This week's record is Repeater by Fugazi. This record was first released in 1990 and was repressed in 2009. Copy I have here is a repress on black vinyl. Anyways, today we're talking to Brian Mcternan from Battery, Be Well, and Salad Days Studio. How's it going, Brian?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Pretty good. Yeah.
Right.
It's a good record you have there.
Oh, thank you.
One of my favorites.
Yeah. How have you been keeping busy during all this?
Oh man, it's been a weird time. I mean, I've been doing a lot of music stuff from home and just trying to stay positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you guys in school like in like remote, or are you actually physically back?
We're remote. Yeah.
Remote school. And it's relieving. Like, I don't know, because I know that there would be like the one asshole who like pulls the mask off and then coughs on someone because they think it's funny.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
So
it's a very strange time.
Yeah.
like the social aspect of virtual obviously isn't going to be as great, but
yeah.
it's safer. And if there was like a choice or anything, I would probably still go with virtual, because I'm not sure what teachers are going to do to like enforce like the masks. Like if you're
so my daughter goes 2 days a week back, and kids have been really good about wearing masks and and just being respectful. So fingers crossed. But it's a strange. It must be a really strange time to be a young person.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, the people at our school are just weird, we'll say. Right. But it's just like, other than if you're not wearing a mask, you can't enter the building. Other than that, I don't know what they're gonna do to enforce it, because if somebody is like wearing it under their nose or just not wearing one at all, nobody's gonna want to get close to them and be like, put your mask on.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just so weird.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So Be Well recently put out a new record called The Weight and the Cost. What is it like releasing a record without the support of a tour right now?
Oh my gosh, it's very strange. I mean, it's definitely, it's like the record took like almost 2 years to write and record, and I hadn't made a record of my own music in almost 20 years when we did the Be Well record. I mean, Battery broke up in 1999 maybe, and from that point on I was just producing. So I was not performing, I wasn't writing, I wasn't recording my own stuff. So it was like this big kind of hurdle for me to like get the nerve to do it in the first place. And then it's like you work so hard on it and then you put it out, and then it's like, and punk and hardcore, it's about the show. I mean, the records are awesome, but like, it's soup. You want to like, I want to be in like a sweaty room with a whole bunch of people screaming in my face, and it feels like that may never happen again. So I don't know. Yeah. But I mean, it's been cool in that, things like this, podcasts, and there have been opportunities to at least like talk about the record and connect with people. But it's pretty crushing to not be able to tour. And I feel really bad. I mean, fortunately for us, like, it's not our like, income. I mean, we do it because we love it. But like a lot of artists and roadies and sound guys and people, like all of these people whose like livelihood's been taken away on top of like their passion, so it's
right.
We're lucky in that we don't rely on the band to survive it all, but it's still pretty sad.
Yeah. We've talked about this a lot, but how do you feel about like drive-in shows and stuff like that?
I mean, I think there definitely are bands that could do that. I think that I don't know that that's like would be a match for Be Well. I mean, at this point, like I just like, my preference would be to only ever play tiny little places. I mean, I just like want to have that kind of connection. Like the last summer, Battery did a tour with H2O, and we played a bunch of like huge festivals, and it's like, I don't know, just being separated from the crowd just felt strange to me.
Yeah, I mean, we've had the same question with a couple people as far as drive-in shows, and people have either been like, basically based on the genre they play, they've been like, oh, it would be cool. But then like the hardcore and punk rock musicians we've talked to, they're like, no, it's not the same.
Yeah.
Well, it also mean that I have to sing every word, which I don't know that I can do.
Yeah, like we talked to a couple of the people from H2O, and they were saying like, because they play hardcore music, like you can't yell "my friends look out for me" like family when like you're 2 cars away from someone you know.
They actually might be able to pull it off because they're so fun. You know, they're just like sing along. I can imagine people like in their cars honking along, and you know, I don't know. H2O, H2O I think could pull it off, and I think that you know, I mean, I guess if a year from now we're in the same situation, I'll probably have a different answer. But for now, I'm just holding out hope that things will get better. What sucks is Europe was better, doing much better, and we actually had a tour book for March, and that just got canceled. So.
Yeah, I saw like.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah. I saw that they were like shutting everything down again.
Yeah. We're talking about trying to do like a streamed performance type thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Kind of freaks me out a little bit. But
yeah, we keep saying like that first show back is going to be like the most like just strange yet like relieving thing.
I know. Well, it's a weird time because like even when I'm like watching TV and when people like hug or like shake hands, I'm like, whoa, no.
I know. It's like TV will never be the same again. I've literally seen TV shows that are starting of people that communicate over like Zoom calls. Like it's becoming a thing, and it's just kind of crazy that that's the new normal. Is like whenever in hindsight masks like aren't going to be a thing. Imagine going to the grocery store and just like feeling different then. Like not wearing a mask is going to be weird.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. It's weird. The funny thing is that I went to Hong Kong in the late 90s with my wife, and everybody had masks on, and I was like, what is this? Is so weird. But like, I don't know. But in America, all these crazy people think that it's like someone's taking away their freedom. Actually, it was really funny. We went to DC. I was in DC, and my mother-in-law, every time we passed somebody that didn't have a mask on, she would say, "It's the law, put a mask on." And then these people turn around and we're like, "It's not in the Constitution." And it's like,
yeah, we can say here that we don't like those people. They're very annoying.
Super weird. Well, the weird thing about it is like when you think about the sacrifices other people have made, like, you know, I think like my dad was drafted and had to go to Vietnam. You know what I mean? Like, leave his family, go fight in a war he didn't even believe in.
Right.
That's like a real like thing imposed on someone where like putting something over your face and the times that you're around other people is just like a certain point, like, come on.
It's so frustrating, and like the part that bothers me more is like, I mean, I can't say that I haven't been anywhere or seen anybody like in the past 7 months, but I will say like if everybody would just like hunker down, not see anybody, everything would be fine. But it's like people are just kind of selfish about it, honestly.
And you also have like politicians that it's like they like use it as like a wedge, you know, like it's like, okay, it sucks, but like if everybody just said like, look, we all just have to do this, like exactly what you said, just hunker down. And anyway, what about you guys? How are you dealing with it? You find a lot of new music or just kind of like?
I mean, I've found some new stuff. Like we've shared some new stuff, like we send music back and forth, but a lot of the albums like from bands that I know that have been put out have just been great. Like all the quarantine playlists are great.
That's and how did you guys get into doing this podcast together and like this whole
Dominic, you can go ahead. I feel like I always answer this question.
Oh, well, we started it in April, and we were just like talking to our friends, and then like our friends were super into it. So then we were like, maybe we can reach out to like some musicians. Maybe they would be just as into it. And our first guest was JR from Less Than Jake.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and that was
they are from Next Step Up. But I don't know if you know them.
But it was like Less Than Jake and the Descendants are tied for my favorite bands. So having the first interview be like the saxophone player was like just
yeah, it was pretty scary for me too, because I'd say since we started the podcast, I've listened to like more punk and like ska music, but then I didn't listen to any. So I was like, about to go talk to a guy from Less Than Jake. This should be interesting. And I remember I had all these little notes written down on like call cards in case he asked something.
Yeah, it was like bass, Roger, vocals, Chris.
Yeah, I just knew nothing, and I was like, I want to know everything. I want to be sure I could answer anything.
That's so cool. That's so cool, though.
And then like we talked to like Doug from Field Day, and then he was like, give me a list of 15 people and I'll reach out to them. And then we were like, the Descendants. He was like, who else? The Descendants.
Yeah,
that was just it.
He's awesome.
That's, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah. So.
And then like throughout the day, it was like Bill's a yes. Like this person is a yes.
Yeah. It was pretty crazy.
Awesome.
And that was like 3 or 4 months in, and like Bill Stevenson, like being on a Zoom call with like your favorite drummer is I don't know, just
pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And you guys live in Baltimore, right?
Yeah.
That's where I live too.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we live in like literally like Baltimore County, like White Marsh, Perry Hall.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I live in Mount Washington, like just like right off 83. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Weird question, but like 2 years ago, there was a Quickie Show in Baltimore, and I was wondering if you were there.
I was not at the Baltimore show, but I went to their Pennsylvania show.
Okay, they played it like a Methodist church.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very last minute show.
Yeah, I didn't go to that one, but I drove up. They played at like a bookstore in somewhere in Pennsylvania, and it was awesome. It was so cool.
Yeah.
When you came in, they like gave lyric sheets out.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I don't know. I mean, like I love lyrics. Like it's what made me fall in love with this. I mean, like I love the sound of punk and hardcore, but the lyrics are what made me like love this music. And I just think that we're in a weird time where like, you get a lyric sheet with vinyl, but like like when I was your age, I would go to the record store and buy a record. And by the time I even got home and listened to it, I'd read every lyric. Like, I had songs to listen to. And now it's like, Googling it, it just doesn't have the same charm. So I was pretty stoked like, to go to that show and be able to like hear these songs I never heard before and like read along or like, what did he just say? It was like,
I get that.
Because they announced the Baltimore show like a week before it happened, and I said to my dad, I was like, do you want to go to this show? He was like, we won't know any of the lyrics. He was like, I get it's Ian MacKaye and Joe Lally, like one in a lifetime experience. He was like, but it'll be weird, it'll be packed. There were like 30 people there. It was, I don't want to say it was a big place, but it wasn't necessarily a small place. And they
distancing show now, right?
Yeah.
I could see them play at a drive-in.
Yeah.
It really does depend on the band because, like we've talked about genre. Like if there's like a jazz musician, they could totally have like a drive-in show.
Maybe not. They could have a real show.
Right.
Yeah.
But then it's just like the hardcore and like punk scene just doesn't work. It's just not the same, because then it comes into the fact that people are going to be like, oh, it wasn't the same. And it's like, what did you expect? We're in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah. I think they'll figure something out. I hope.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
like we've mentioned, like music is the only thing nobody said anything about. Like there's like an estimate on when they want us back in school. There's an estimate on when movie theaters are opening, whatever. But like music is just up in the air completely.
And I mean, the reality is like when it comes back, the whole landscape could be really different, because I think the independent venues, nobody has something like this in their business plan. This is like, people who are running places like the Auto Bar or the Metro Gallery or the Black Cat. I mean, they're just not. There isn't enough money in this to ever prepare yourself for something like this, and then the government doesn't care. It's so I hope that like some of the independent venues are able to like maintain and
Yeah, I mean there are like some places in like Ram's Head on Stage in Annapolis just reopened, but from what I hear it's like there's like plexiglass, each table is like 10 feet apart, and it just like I get live music, but that I just feel like you can't enjoy that then. Like
yeah, I mean, like there's some bands like I don't know if you like some of like the like I went and saw Chris from the Flatliners play acoustic, and I think he could pull something like that off, or like Dave Haas could probably do it.
Yeah.
There's some stuff that works, and then there's some stuff that I just
It's funny because I was supposed to see Dave Haas on the 13th, and then March 12th they were like, not gonna happen.
I was at that show with the Explosion. Wasn't the Explosion gonna play that show?
I think so, yeah.
They're an awesome band. I don't know if you've ever checked them out, but
I was really looking forward to that show, and then like the day before, and it was like the last show of that little run. We're like, nope, not gonna happen, not gonna happen. But and like 2019 was a great year for shows.
When did you guys start going to shows? Like, how did you guys get into this music?
Well, I've since like fourth grade I turned into like pop punk and alternative, and that was like it for me. Like that's all I listened to. And then the summer before sixth grade, we were both in eighth grade, by the way, just for preface. But the summer before sixth grade, I saw Panic at the Disco and Fall Out Boy. Like that was like the music I was into.
Yeah.
And then, me and Dominic met towards like the end of sixth grade, and that's when we kind of started like I started like opening music a little bit more and like going deeper. And then the podcast, it was like a turning point in the podcast where I started recognizing names. Like I recognized that people would say the same names for like the like bands and stuff, and it just kind of clicked.
Yeah, I think I got into music about the same age as you guys. I went to my first show in fifth grade, and then started getting really into it in sixth grade, and then the first time I ever recorded a record I was in eighth grade.
Okay.
Oh, wow,
I was like I think I was like 6 or 7 when I went to my first show.
Oh my god.
Show. It was a festival. It was punk rock bowling in New Jersey.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it was like the Descendants, it was H2O, it was oh my god, I forget who else, but there was a ton of good bands on the bill.
And your parents just took you, or?
Oh yeah. Okay, there was one thing before that. There was a screening of Filmage in Pennsylvania, and Milo played with like he was there. He just happened to be there, and then he like there was some band playing, and then he like went on stage and sang a bunch of songs with them. But we left early then because I didn't know that they were going to be playing, so I didn't have like earmuffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter is just a year younger than you guys. She's in 7th grade. Maybe you guys can meet at some point.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Is she into music too?
Yeah, she is. She's getting more into it. I mean, it's the similar where she's just
Yeah.
kind of get into it. So maybe.
That's cool. I mean, yeah, like we touched on like government like for a second, but I know a lot of people just like in the state, like in random parts. So like when you said that you were closer to like Mount Washington, is that what you said? Yeah, so like I know people from up there just because I'm involved in student council, so I'm like all over. Of course, right now everything's digital, and yeah, not super fun.
Yeah. Did you just like start student council in the pandemic or?
Yeah, well, okay, so I feel bad talking about myself. We're supposed to be doing an interview, but I in 6th grade was like when I started getting interested, and then in 7th grade I joined, and then of course halfway through the year kind of stopped, and then I applied for more things when we were online because I had more confidence when I wouldn't have to go in person.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're a producer at Salad Day Studio. Knowing what you know now as a producer, how is it different to record records as opposed to like that first Battery record? And
well, it's total. I mean, I guess it's like when all of the Battery records were made so fast. Like, like we'd go in for like a day or 2 days or just a handful of days, and everything was kind of like a whirlwind. And then we never really worked with a producer. Like we kind of did it, and we were so young at the time.
Yeah.
So it's interest. Like, I mean, all I've done since I was 17 now is produce records pretty much. So and then all of like the technology with making records has changed so much. Like back then everything was, and it was like, we're always kind of like paying ourselves. And like now even now it's like so weird with like the, like this sounds weird, but like back then there was no MP3 or email, right? So it was like, you left the studio with like a cassette tape that you would listen to. Now it's like I could finish a song and like share it with the rest of the band in like 2 seconds. I mean,
right.
I mean, there are times when I think that like all the technology has made is cool, but then there's other times where I feel like just kind of that rawness and that existed in the old days was cool for different reasons.
Yeah, for sure. Totally agree. I mean, do you think like having that experience as like, being younger and having records like kind of rushed, do you think that's like what made you want to become a producer or?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just always loved being in the studio and I loved music and I wasn't very good at school. It was like the only thing I could do. And then I kind of got to a point where it was like, I just was kind of like, I have no idea what I'm going to do with my life, but like, and everybody else that I was growing up with was like going to college and doing all this. And I was like, I like, I regret not doing better in school, but I didn't do well in school. And so, and I think part of it was that like, nobody ever like zoomed out and said like, hey, you want to do music, you want to do production, you want to like do all this stuff. This is how math applies to that. Like you love architecture.
Yeah.
This is how geometry applies to that. Like there are things that I really like, even things like, I wish that I was like a more confident writer. Now I'm doing all these interviews all the time and I'm always like, wait, is this punctuation right? Like, I mean, I kind of wish someone had connected the dots for me better when I was younger, because there are things that like my daughter is learning that like, that like I wish that I had learned. But I think that more than anything, I just like wasn't sure what I was going to do with my life. And it seemed like, why not? And I mean, I'm not sure what made me think I'd be able to pull it off, but somehow it worked.
I mean, I totally get that. Yeah. If you don't connect the learning with like your passions, it doesn't always sit well. Like I'm not bad at math, but it's often I'm just kind of like, what is the point in this? You know, like if I don't have an interest in something, it's harder to care about, which like sounds harsh, but if I don't see how I could use it, then it's like, okay, I'm doing this now.
Your math when you're figuring out your ad rates for your podcast.
Like,
yeah.
I prefer the equations where it's like there's context behind it and they like give you a scenario, like stuff like that. That's just better for me to like figure out. But when it's just an equation and they say like just solve this equation, when like nobody's I'm not gonna go into like a gas station hoping to buy something, whip out a calculator, and they're gonna go, nope, not in here.
Right.
That's for you to figure out.
Yeah.
So just, I don't know. Like some stuff you can tell you're gonna need to use it, and then like other stuff, I don't know, just seems pointless.
Yeah.
If you would be surprised, I guess that's all I'm saying. There are things that I'm constantly like, oh God, how do I figure this angle out or this equation out? Or I also think that like, I regret not, I love learning things. I love knowing things. And I just didn't, when I was your age, I didn't know that yet. I mean, I didn't like, you know, and by the time I kind of figured out like, oh, actually, I love learning things. I love like having things to think about and care about and things. My life was already at a point where it was like, I'm not going back to school now. So just developing like good habits and good like work ethics and organization, like things like that. I mean, if you put the time in when you're your age, it will benefit you forever with everything you do, not just, you know.
Yeah.
We've been trying to stay like on top of stuff, you know, and like balancing everything, but like especially online, we've been doing pretty good, but it's very much like even more easier online than in person to procrastinate. Like right. It's a lot easier because when you're in school, you get your lessons like separately, but now that we're online, it's like you get everything for every single class at the same time.
Yeah, and
kind of overwhelming.
It's put like you have like these different folders that you can put your papers in, and now it's just like you're looking at all of your work all at once. So maybe it's the same amount of work, but like it's just being presented to you differently, and it's just very, very overwhelming.
What's the funny is like with my daughter, it's like we can see what all her homework is online, and we can see whether it was or not. So it's like she can't come home and be like, yeah, no, I don't have any homework. We're like, let me see about that.
Yeah, my parents have definitely appreciated that because like I'm usually like first just to get my homework done. Like I've never been a kid that's like I don't feel like doing it. Right. But now that it's online, the only time I'll like postpone it is because I genuinely can't look at a computer anymore. Like it just gets to be too much because like you have to stay on the calls for the entire 50 minutes. There's like 3 of those a day. So it's just too much eye strain. It actually, sometimes I get up from my chair at my desk and just go nap. Right. Just to give my eyes.
The teachers don't seem to be into it either. And that's another thing. Like, when the teachers just sound like they have no more energy left in them, that's like kind of draining as well.
Yeah, because I mean, it's kind of relatable and like you understand it because they obviously, I mean, they want to be back in the classroom. They don't want to be looking at a screen either. But it's just sometimes a little discouraging. So it's like, man, the teacher isn't even into it. Why should I be?
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be tough for everybody. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sorry this was a little short, but thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. No problem.
Thank you.